Good and welcome to FMA discussion. This is episode 334, and tonight we have Guro Michael on, and we're going to be talking about all the systems he's done, his own system, and I'm going to be showing a vid that he kind of did with Jesse on Palmstick. I thought was kind of interesting. So we're going to be covering all this. If you have any questions, please post them on the comment section, and I will get to them. If they don't or kind of correlate with the topics we're talking about, I'll write it down. I might not get to it right away, but I assure you that I will get to it, just not to affect the flow of the interview. So sometimes I wait before I ask, depending on where the question falls into. So just please try to keep that in mind. And without further ado, here is Guro Michael. Hey there.
Hello, sir. How you doing?
Good, you?
Not too bad.
That's good.
Good evening.
Yes, I appreciate you coming on. So I think it's gonna be good. I like getting folks on that do multiple systems, and I always reason because I did that, not by conscious choice. It just several factors which attributed as far as my journey, but some of them wasn't all positive, but nevertheless, at the end, it all made sense for the better. But I'm always interested in hearing others who've kind of done multiple styles and how they felt going through that. And so I got a couple questions surrounding that. But before we get into all that, though, like pre-FMA, like what'd you do? Like what was your initial martial arts exposure?
Wow. So, I actually started martial arts at a very young age. So I was born in the Philippines.
Okay.
I grew up in the Philippines. At the age of 7, I was actually introduced to Japanese karate. My father brought me to this dojo, and I was introduced to the Japanese arts at the age of 7. So I progressed through that system all throughout my younger years. But at the same time, one of the biggest things that the school that I attended had offered FMA, where we started incorporating some of the sticks, the modern arnis stuff at a young age, because it's part of the at that point in time, it's very new, it's very eclectic. It's not really understood or absorbed by the community, but it was part of the physical education program in the school that I attended. So there's some introduction of FMA and some of the other, the Japanese martial arts at a very young age. So I started around 7. So we'll kind of continue to that motion until I immigrated here in the States. There's this big gap, where went to school from undergrad. And up to that point, I picked up more formally on other FMAs, specifically Balintuak, Grandmaster Bobby Taboada's Balintuak. Now that came in at a later time. During my college years, I dabbed into other arts. Would love to train with them, but I'm a broke college student, man. I can't afford the training programs that they offer.
I remember those days, huh?
Let me tell you. But you meet like tons of people that train, and they're very blessed to have a chance to train martial arts during those times. I mean, one of my roommates, he trained Taekwondo. One of my best friends, he lives in Columbus now. And basically, he and I would spar here and there, just out in the grass in the college. People are looking at us like we're crazy, but we just kind of spar. I mean, it's something that we have something in common with in terms of the martial arts in general. So that's one point of it. And another one is that I met another fellow in my undergrad, and he was a transfer student from, I think, Malaysia, and he was one of those Aikido Jiu-Jitsu practitioners, old school, and got really interested. So some of the joint lock manipulation come into play in my undergrad years. Tried to understood that. The one thing that kind of stood out during my interaction with that fellow is that my first question is like, what happens if somebody tries to kick you? And his response, break the ankle. Like, okay. So his formal training was not formal. It's all combative. So which is kind of, okay, there's a bridge between the sport aspect and then now you have a combative mentality. So that kind of got me really more engaged into the martial arts. Then I transitioned here in the Cincinnati, Ohio area. Met my instructor, who's the late Grandmaster George Penafiel, and he is one of Grandmaster Bobby Taboada's first FQIs, full qualified instructor under his system. And that was back in 98, 99. And I met him by chance. We happened to cross paths in a technical center where he and I actually worked together in the same company. Next thing I knew, how Filipinos are. Hey, are you Filipino? Like, yeah. Then we clicked right there. Then the next thing I knew, he said, stop by my dojo. And I train Filipino martial arts. I'm like, really? And that kind of got started at that point in time. And one unique thing about that group is the camaraderie, the tribal, and the family aspect. You have that group camaraderie. I'll tell you right now, training with him, he was a practitioner under Tang Soo Do, old school Tang Soo Do within the Cincinnati area. He was one of the pioneers of promoting Filipino martial arts in the Cincinnati area. And so our training was, old school. Do not like the training at that point because, I was there for the social aspect of it. We met some great people from when I started, at his school, and still friends with them up to this point. I mean, that's how close we got in terms of the camaraderie, not only for the training, but actually for the brotherhood and the friendship. Wow. So that was kind of my journey coming into the formalized FMA system, and Grandmaster Taboada is my current Grandmaster in Taboada Balintawak.
So, okay, interesting. So, but before you got, so I guess fair to say before you went to a formal system, formal instruction, syllabus, what have you, it sounds like via the school system, you got a little exposure to minor knees. Is that?
Yes, absolutely. Yep. So it's actually an interesting turn up about in terms of information. It's like I was learning the modern arnis at a younger age. Then I started training Balintawak. It just clicked. It's like it's the the premise to modern arnis, which is fantastic. So that's where I got hooked into it, not only for the art, but actually for the cultural aspect of it too, right? And Dean, as you know, I'm considered in the Midwest. I'm not quite sure if Ohio is the Midwest, but some people call it the Midwest. But in my area, the FMA is not very well known.
So Cincinnati,
right? Yeah. So I mean, some of the systems here in FMA, in terms of Kali or Filipino martial arts, are under in the Inosanto system. So the Kali Inosanto system. So there's the blend of the the Inosanto system. Yeah. So introduction, some dojos here, fantastic groups of practitioner here, but more towards me was the cultural aspect when I met the late Grandmaster George Penafil, and he introduced me to Balintawak, and it just kind of bloomed from there. Again, that's kind of like how it transitioned point. And then after that portion, got introduced to other systems from that point on. Pretty much journeyed to the FCS realm under Tuhan Ray Dionaldo. I met Tuhan Ray met Tuhan Ray by chance at a Sokoship Council. I think I was invited by Grandmaster Bobby Taboada in Florida to attend that. And Tuhan Ray happens to demo there. So I started chatting with him, and then I saw him again in the World Camp and talked more, and that's how I got initiated or started with FCS. That came in after I became an FQI or full qualified instructor under Grandmaster Bobby Taboada with Grandmaster George Penafil. So that's how I picked up the FCS. And in terms of the overlapping during my travel back and forth to the Philippine Islands, since I visit before family and before kids, I was able to travel to the Philippines at least every 2 years. Then that kind of got extended. Yeah. So, and when I went back and forth, somebody mentioned to me to check out Grandmaster Eduardo Siniza. I actually did not meet Jim Eduardo Siniza later on, but I talked via online with his students in California. I think it's Mr. Romico was my first introduction to Barao. One of my students said, check out this guy, check out this system. I'm like, wow, I got hooked as a touch point. But when I met Grandmaster Eduardo Siniza, we clicked. I think it's one of those things where, there's a good fit for a practitioner to instructor relationship, similar to what I have with Grandmaster George Benefiel, similar to what I have relationship with Tuhan Radio Naldo. So that's kind of where it kind of tied in terms of my journey in training in those 3 different international curriculums.
So okay, good. So when you went full bore into FMA, I guess, what resonated with you? In other words, like you had some Taekwondo, you had some Japanese, you're playing around with your college friends, but like what really stood out that was so different and that you just wanted more? Like, was it a cultural thing? Or was it just, wow, weapons? I mean, all the above? I mean, what was it?
All of the above, Dean. I'll be honest with you. When I got to the formal introduction of FMA, I'm at some point in time, like everybody else in FMA, they want to test their craft. Everybody's in competitive mode. They want to see that aspect of the combative mode. For me, I like to test my craft under the different systems, and I actually competed in the Arnold Classic in more of a state level and some of the national level, other competition here in the United States where I could try my craft in the realm of FMA discipline, right? So that's where I got hooked into it in terms of the cultural, but at the same time, it's that application as a competitor. So like anybody else, I guess in my realm, I'm just one of those few people that are very competitive. In my younger years, trying to see what I could really incorporate in terms of the arts that I'm learning. I had to test the craft. I had to see it for myself, that what works, what doesn't, what is theoretical versus combative or full combative. So that kind of tied in it with me. Now that same energy is actually introduced by Grandmaster George Benefiel towards me, because he competed in all this, Tang Sudo competition and all that stuff. So he relayed that stories, and I kind of got hooked. Like, oh well, I'm training FMA. I got to try it out. In terms of the competition. I think it's more of a self-learning for me, not only as a practitioner, but also for the cultural aspect. I think it also helped me understand to answer some of the questions that I could potentially have with my future students. Like, does this work? Does this not work? And all that stuff, right? So I have a better insight. So one of the lucky point, blessed point in my life, where as I was competing all throughout, I competed from 2000 to 2010. So I had a decade of competitions under the different platforms. My job at one point in time allowed me to travel. So I was able to travel from different locations around the United States. And when I have a chance to travel, I do my work. I work hard, I play hard. So after work, I would just go throughout the phone book back then.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah, right.
Right. Yeah. So I look up like FMA instructors, and I'm like, hey, I just want to see, what you guys have to offer. And I have met, and I've been really fortunate to meet a lot of excellent instructors out there. And I, just to see how they teach, the way they present themselves. And that's where I'm like, okay, I like this, I don't like this, and kind of build my own structure and how to be an instructor or a better instructor and maybe more efficient instructor. But that's where I kind of had a chance to explore other, arts while I was traveling throughout the United States. So that's, kind of like a short blurb out of that. Now you're asking me like what allowed me to get enthused by it. Again, I think it's just the curiosity. And this is one of those things when they had Arnold Classic here in Columbus, Ohio, when they started that. Actually, before that, it was Battle of Columbus. Then that got absorbed by Arnold Classic. Man, I didn't know there was a lot of FMA practitioners that are willing to compete until you see them there. You start to network, you start to talk to them, and especially coming in the Cincinnati Midwest area, you don't see a lot of that. And there's your camaraderie again. There's your tribal, network and brotherhood and family coming together. If we compete in the mat, we are competitors. Off the mat, we're friends. So that's the one thing I liked about the nature of that circuit that I was able to compete in. So
nice. We got some folks that are jumping in here. Folks, if you are watching, please tell us where you're watching from. Smash that like button. We got Felix from Texas. We got Chris
Yeah,
Mountain from down
Felix.
south. Who's going to be coming on next month, Chris? We got Robert Small, who's coming on this month. We got Michael Art, and I'm going to guess that is Paul, the Facebook user, or Paul Rosales. I'm going to assume. I think that's that. I'm sure he'll clarify. So when you're okay, so you sounds like your first formal was under Blend-to-Walk and all that. So I'm assuming you're getting the groupings. You got the 6 levels. Your 7th level is kind of where you bring your own stuff into it. And if I'm not mistaken, if that's correct.
Actually, it was more of a so I listened to the foundational structure that was given, that was provided to me. And the idea is, again, I think I mentioned this to you, is that, yes, I'm blessed to train with multiple systems, but don't intermix it. Is the key approach. I think everybody's smart as a practitioner. They could absorb more than multiple systems as they progress through. I think for me, I'm like, I want to start from the very beginning and at least train as much as I can, bring up to that next level, and the exploration comes into play in terms of how to be efficient and better at that system. Then by chance, I ended up starting a new system, ground up, and again, started from that level, then becoming an instructor, and it just cascades. I think also everybody, I think speaking for myself, there's a finite limit on how much I could learn and how much I could be proficient at. I'll give other instructors props for being able to be proficient at 100 different styles. I just I can't do that. I mean, I know I just have a different structure from how I would like to present Filipino martial arts. I rather have a condensed material to present to my students and allow them to learn and give my insights. And again, always foundational, ground up, then maybe progress on to the next system, then to the next system. And that's just me as an instructor. And I think a lot of people are, just different. And I believe in the context of disruptive learning also. So disruptive learning, you start teaching one system and they get engaged. You introduce another system, and they hate that other system that you introduce because it's overwhelming. But guess what? That practitioner is starting to think about that system that you taught them. So it allows them to learn it quicker. And they don't know it yet, but they're actually learning in a parallel path or dual path in 2 multiple systems. But they get a good foundational approach. So.
Yeah, I just found, it's funny when you mentioned some folks can't do it, can be over, and like not by choice. I found that out. Like, oh yeah, I'll be okay, and then I took on too much, and then it just was overwhelming, and became just bomb line stressful. It just.
I believe you. I believe you. And I think that's also watch out for a lot of practitioners, right? I mean, they would take on like 5 or 10 different systems, and they're okay in all of them, but they're not proficient in all of them.
Yeah.
There's a finite limit on how much people could really be a specialized practitioner in one art, or maybe 2 art, or maybe 3 art, but not all 10.
No, it's a good point,
right?
Yeah.
So at least in my perspective, I could be wrong, and that's just my point of view. Because you will see a lot of practitioners who have, I dabbed into this style, and you ask them, show me. It's like, okay. Then you actually see a practitioner who just focuses on that one style, and you're like, wow, that guy's sharp. That guy has done so many strikes, so many reps, while the other person has done some on that system, but not multiple reps, or the journey kind of is truncated.
No, it's true. And then I finally got smart and okay, what's the sun? Okay, the sun's KI. What's underneath the sun? Okay, Lamego, Amok, Burton. Okay. So then I got smarter, and I'm like, but back it was SAC, it was Tienza, it was Ensemble Blend, and there was. Yeah, I mean, they didn't really mesh together well. You know what I mean? I'm obviously there were some things that meshed, of course, but but it wasn't a conscious choice. I mean, sometimes when you got to move on, and what have you. And, not that that's what you wanted. It just kind of turned out that way. But you don't want to just drop out of the community. So you move on, you know what I mean?
Right.
But then through that experience, I got smart. It's like, okay, I really love methodologies and I want to see how people approach different things. So I try to be smarter now. Like, okay, well, does it fall under this umbrella? If it doesn't, I'm just,
Yeah.
I would love to do it,
Absolutely.
but it's,
Yeah, I agree with you. Yeah, and that's one of the things too. I mean, it's good to I think it's worthwhile. I mean, now it's easier with all the internet platforms where you can do your own research prior to just dabbing into the art. And I think people are really getting smart in terms of like, I want to get this training because it might fit me, and they don't fall in that pitfall where they start training and the midpoint of their training, it doesn't fit them, where now it's a good process where people are able to see that good fit. I think for some people who started earlier on without all these tools of the internet and access to it, it's always a trial and error. And this is one of those cases where if I'm going to start something, I'm going to finish it. And if I'm going to finish it, this journey is a lifelong journey, and I better have a good relationship with my instructor because it's that journey.
Yeah.
So.
No, for sure. Yeah, you're right. I mean, everything that we have literally at our fingertips now. I mean, you can research and you could find out an instructor might not be the best fit. I mean, of course, word of mouth and all that, but while we're a small community, I mean, literally though, we're at finger touch, you know what I mean? As far as resources and finding out and, getting information that you need or want, to find out about something,
Right. And then an interesting comment about, the instructors, it's not a good fit. I think another thing that I bring to the table is that I'm really not afraid if I have a practitioner to stop by my dojo, and, I'll tell them, like, check out other instructors. There's other instructors out there. You might train great, but maybe it's not a good fit. You won't hurt me. You won't scare me if you decide to train with me for a couple of months and go on to a different, practitioner or train with another instructor. Because I always have this mindset. It's a practitioner's journey. As an instructor, I want to provide that for them.
Yeah,
I don't want to hold that back to them. It's like, yes, stay with me for the long term and be loyal for it. And in the tail end, if it's a not good fit, man, we'll just be butting heads. And I'd rather have like a beer together and rather than instead of training. I mean, it'd be awesome to have a training and having a beer together, right? Yeah. But if it's not working, it's not working. Why force it, right? So
that's indentured servitude. You gotta stay with you gotta stay with me. I mean, to me, I've advocated this on the channel, and the group. In my opinion, the student is the most important piece of the puzzle. It's not the system or an instructor. And sometimes I think that gets lost, with some systems, you know what I mean? They just get caught up in there, and I don't know, just my opinion. I just think I think the student just really is the most important piece of the puzzle,
Yeah. I think the build on that is that I have this context of it's a passion for me. I'm doing this out of passion. I love teaching practitioners the FMA portion of it, whether it's Balin to Walk, FCS, or Barao. It's not an anchor for me. It's not my bread and butter to survive on. So I think it's a different. There's a difference between being in business as an instructor and being a passionate instructor. And I've seen it before where I think it plays a fine line to be an instructor who is in business because you have to survive, or as an instructor who is just teaching out of passion. But there's a balance. There's always got to be a balance.
Yeah.
So, and I think that more than I do. You've been in the as an instructor longer than I have. You've seen a lot of practitioners, a lot of instructors. It's a trade-off. It's really a trade-off.
And I have empathy for those who have to kind of mold their curriculum or try to fit it to keep students in the door, you know what I mean? And just because that's their main income. So, I feel for them. I really do. Where I'm like you, like if a student, like I tell them, say, hey, look, I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't know if this is a good fit for you. Like, you know what I mean? Like I've had a couple situations like that. And I'm really just right. To me, it's side money. It's a side gig. The passion, of course. But yeah, but man, if you got to rely on this, specifically FMA for money.
Yeah. Hey, I mean, again, Midwest, Cincinnati, Ohio. I'm not going to get rich over it. It's people.
It's funny. I
It's
had Tim
tough.
Hartman
It's
on.
tough.
We did a series on FMA schools, because I do believe we need more FMA schools. I firmly do believe that if we want this to cultivate and continue on with the younger generation. But we identified, I think it was in the teens, as far as like full time, not like you're subletting, you're at a church or like that. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but like I'm talking like full time FMA schools that are they're open. They're most of their classes are FMA. They're open, full time, day, evening, what have you. And I think we identified in the teens.
Yeah,
so that's not even one per state. That's not even one per state. You know what I mean? I think that comparison to like anything else, I mean, that's like, and C-Lot's got to be, it's probably not even on the map. I'm guessing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's
and I will give all those instructors that does this for a living out of 100%. Their passion, their energy. I will give them all the props in the world, because FMA is a specialized art, and it's it's a tough business. I don't it's really, and the reason I give them props, because now you're dealing with business versus your passion, and that's the balance.
Do things maybe you wouldn't normally do if you weren't relying on it for income.
Right.
Yeah, I know. And again, I have empathy for those folks when they have to rely on it. I mean, I get it, but I just never would want to be in that position.
I'm surely I'm one of the few that are blessed to do this for the passion of it, and and this is one of the things too, like. The context of the business aspect already cringes me in the very beginning, but at the same time, I got some great coaching from other instructors that it's the concept of trying to put worth in your system or the way you're teaching. Surely you could keep on teaching for free, but it kind of cheapens your system, or cheapens your instructorship. And that's where I got a cringe, like, wow, I got to charge people money. I'm like, okay, I got it. But it was one of those things that, again, becomes a gray line, right? Because again, I don't do it for business. I'm doing it out of passion, but at the same time, you have to have that balance.
Yeah, you have to put a worth on yourself. You have to give yourself self-worth. You know what I mean? Like,
right, absolutely.
Yeah, like I was charging, and Burton one time took me aside and says, what are you doing? I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah, right.
I'm like,
I've been there. Yeah. That context of like, oh yeah, why are you doing that? Because I love doing that. Do you really? It's like, well, let's put it in context. You have to put you have to put a context into it. So yeah,
that was an interesting conversation.
I believe you.
So when you were doing so when you were at one time when you were, obviously you're still studying all three, but at the time when you took on all three, and you're obviously trying to do the best at allocate yourself to all three and give all three fairness as far as your effort and all that. Were you ever overwhelmed, or were you ever like, what am I doing?
I think for me, I actually have a chance to structure the three different systems that there's an overlap, but not a whole lot of overlap, and progression on the foundational from beginning to end. And Dean, and this is one of those things, I always just like to be a practitioner, and what really pivoted me to start teaching was in 2003. I think when I became, when I was here in Cincinnati, when I got my C of A, or completion art, under Grandmaster Bobby Taboada. And my instructor is the head instructor of Taboada Balintawak in Cincinnati, also known as Cincinnati Balintawak Club.
What's his name? I've heard of it.
Okay. Grandmaster George Penafiel.
And unfortunately, he passed, right?
He passed away, yeah, a couple of years back. So at that point, there's two instructors in the same location. So he said, why don't we have two different branches? And I really didn't want to have to branch off with him. He's my instructor. I love learning Balintawak under Grandmaster George Penafil. And this is where we had enough of a push to have two different locations in Cincinnati. So he lives closer to the downtown area. I'm more in the suburbs. So that's where I had to initiate my group. And I basically called it Maktan Filipino Martial Arts. And under that, that's where I start teaching Tabuada Balintawak. And, as a foundational. Now, FCS comes into play later on as I progress into it and as I delve into it. And it's almost a complete, a different, from one spectrum to another, a different system itself. So it's enough of the differentiation between the two systems. And at the same time, then when I picked up Barao, Sugbo, under Grandmaster Eduardo Siniza, that's somewhere in the realm that it's a tie-in with Balintawak. There's a quote unquote a cousin system, but more bladed.
I remember the interview with that coming up.
Yeah, exactly. So that kind of like delved me into that from how I'm structuring, how I'm teaching my students who are interested, and in the progress, in the progression of it, I took under some of the materials that Grandmaster George Penafil has shown to me, and that's where he started incorporating. Oh yeah, we have this mano that, out of the FMA realm. Pinanjakman, he showed me some of the the material, kind of structured that, some of the stick grappling motions of it, and I got involved. So it's more sectorized per se, and I build up on those sectorized materials that he has shown me, because he has done a lot of the other FMA systems, but not really specialized in those. So and that's where I ended up doing the Maktan FMA curriculum modules, because it's out of respect to my instructor that he showed that to me, and not being aware of the other FMA systems is a starting point. Especially here again, we're back in the Midwest, Ohio area. So what's mano? What is doble baston? What is pinanjakman? No clue.
Yeah, I mean, Ohio, man. When I think of Ohio, I don't think of FMA. I just don't. I mean, I'm not. Here, I got Julius. I got a question. How do you balance career, a family, and kids, and FMA practice/work? That's Julius's question.
Yeah. So,
you're kind of
Julius,
ready, but okay.
Yeah. Definitely. The balance is it's a balancing act. Let me put it this way. There's always a give and take. I guess before family, I've been doing martial arts, so that kind of was instilled prior to the family. On my, having married and having kids. Yes, it's also a trade-off. Don't get me wrong. I love doing martial arts, but sometimes I just want to be with my kids. So it's a balancing act. So there's a give and take. I have a limited or allotted time to travel for martial arts. I'll tell you that right now. So I can't do tours or any of that stuff. But it's a negotiation with my family.
Yeah, and, with the CEO. Yeah.
Exactly, you're right. I mean, So, but at the same time, that passion is what's driving. It's my drive to to continue teaching FMA, and the career portion. When I'm at work, I work hard. And when I'm done at work, I leave work back and I'm focusing on FMA or my family. So there's your answers, the balancing act. Some people do it better than I can, but like everybody else, I'm just doing doing the best I can, So
yeah, but you got to be doing it right. I mean, there's certainly a lot of people who don't do it well. He's got another question. In the U.S., how does the Midwest FMA culture differ from the South FMA, Northwest FMA, and coastal FMA cultures?
So to answer that question, FMA is not as known here in the Midwest. Let me put it this way. If I post my my banner, Maktan Filipino Martial Arts, and I tell them, hey, I teach 3 different international curriculum systems, the first question that comes into mind is, what's that? Like, that's Filipino martial arts. And really, I have to translate it back into a context of like the different names for it. Oh, have you heard of Arnis? Have you heard of Eskrima? Or have you heard of Kali? And it's so unknown to them that these are the different systems of FMA or Filipino martial arts that it's unheard of. And I think the best answer I could give you is that people are really getting smart. They start searching the internet, what is Filipino martial arts, and they happen to cross my name and they happen to be in that area. Back then, I actually have students that searched me, and they travel like 1 hour away to just train with me. And I'm looking at them. It's like, are you crazy? Is there other instructors around there that's closer? And that the mentality is like, there are, but it's not a specialization that what I'm sharing to them, where they're looking for that that specialized or that specific FMA system, whether it's Palindawak, FCS, or Barao. So and that kind of scared me a little bit, because I remember a couple of my students who were traveling at least an hour away, and it's the dead of winter. They will say, "Hey, we're coming over to train, and roads are horrible." I'm like, "Wow, okay," and it's humbling to me. I'm like, I better step up my game. These guys are coming over to train, and and I'm more mindful for their safety. And it's like, don't train with me, train with the people closer to you. And it's just really, really humbling. It's really, really humbling.
No, that's nice. We got just a couple came in here. I just gotta make sure I'm not. Here we go. Paul, I'm assuming that's you about the business name, and I have that. I'm definitely going to get to that. I have that question as well. Having branched out to other states, did you manage handling all the leaders in your group? What makes your program stand out from the rest? Okay, I'm going to get to that too when I ask him about his system. Okay, so let me just make a quick note of these. Okay, Paul, here, just bear with me here, so Methodologies, Paul's question. Okay, let's go see here. So when you chose to do these other systems, like for instance, I know you met Ray. You mentioned you met Ray at a conference or a mutual place there. Did you know anything about FCS prior to talking to him, or
actually
what led you to like what attracted you to the system?
So meeting Tuhan Ray in Florida, I think it's the brotherhood in terms of the camaraderie there, because I've seen other GMs during that event, and it was an eye opener, and it was seeing my instructor. I saw other instructors, and it's just like being in a candy store. You're like, I want to train all this, but I can't. It's just so much information. And in terms of FCS, I think the lure was more of the partnership, really, the friendship that Grandmaster Bobby Tabuada with Tuhan Ray. I'm drawn to having that respect, mutual respect with one another. They're friends, the camaraderie, and I'm like, and to me, it's like, I love the system, but at the same time, beyond the system, there's that friendship and camaraderie within the instructors themselves. There's no political side per se that transpire, which happen often, but at the same time, those were the trigger points. Indeed, don't get me wrong. I would love to train with other systems like Pambuan Arnis with Ama Guru Rafi Pambuan. I saw him there with GM Bayat. Those guys, and it's just basically the camaraderie, the partnership that these guys have with one another, and the professionalism that they bring to the table when they do the tours. So that's really the context of why I happened to start training with Tuhan Ray. Why I ended up training with Grandmaster Siniza. Grandmaster Siniza is again a good network of friendship with Grandmaster Bobby Tabuada, and meeting the person, and that humbleness, it just kind of brings that level of, this is a good fit for me. Beyond the system, the systems are great. There's a lot of great systems. I think to me as a person, as a practitioner, as an instructor, I think there's got to be a good fit between your journey with an instructor.
I think so. Yeah, for sure. If you can't, that's difficult. Yeah, if you're not vibing with him,
Absolutely.
When you just, everybody pretty much Balintawaks, are pretty familiar with that. But can you just briefly describe FCS system for those who might not be aware, as far as because I know it, it's several modules. I mean, obviously stick from minor and niece, if I'm not mistaken. There's some Pikiti in there.
Yep.
And you're gonna have to.
So there's a blend of some of the bladed system. I think some context would be the Sayak material, the Sikaran material. Tuhon Ray's blend on his primary system with the Punyumano approach on the sticks. There's also the Sarong Malong. So you have your Sarong systems in there. So there's a good blend. You could go from the Karambit system to a straight blade. There's the sword and dagger training modules. So it's a good different systems that Tuhon Ray actually had a chance to structure that allows practitioner to have a chance to explore, not only on how he sees it, but also allows the practitioners to see it for themselves. So, there's that exploration point where, at one point in time, learning from Tuhon Ray, I would ask a question, hey, can you do this? Like, yep. And, it's just that, that exploration and discovery coming into play. It's not one-sided, but it's, you have a chance to discover for yourself and some of the aspects of the training modules within the FCS curriculum.
Okay, yeah, it seems pretty diverse. I'll say that. I had him on and a few other folks. I mean, they cover everything. So that's one thing I did recall on that one. Okay, Barao Sabu, right? Am I pronouncing it? Sabu?
Barao Sabu. Yeah.
Wait, let me just want to make sure I'm not missing any questions in here. I know they're coming through. Okay, we'll have to get. Okay, Julius, I see that. I'll definitely get to it. I'm gonna write that down. Okay, that I find that system interesting, and I'm so glad they came on. Just because I covered, a lot of systems on here and folks and all that, and I don't recall like another system that kind of just deals night defensively, really without any offensive content, just really primary focus on the defense. So I thought that was pretty interesting. What can you, and I know folks know about it, but I don't think it's overall that popular. I think,
No. Yeah, you're right. It's not fairly well known here. So again, as I mentioned, I got introduced to it like before 2005. And by the time I got to the actual core material and introduced more on the material, I think it was right 2010. So it was hard to get the perspective of the Barao Subo context. And it's a unique one. As you said, it's all on the self-defense side. And looking at it in back then was when I was being introduced to it in paper. It's hard, right? It's like getting a book with FMA, all the movements and all the disarm. You're like, how does that work? And until you actually, have a chance to train with GM Siniza or other of his instructors, then you'll have a different take on what the system is all about. I think the intent, the positioning is critical. Showing it to you in paper, showing it to you in a online system, it's hard because you really need to feel those energies. You're right. It's not very known here in the United States.
No.
There's only a couple of blessed instructors who are promoting it. A couple in California, and Florida, and myself here in Cincinnati.
You got like 4 people thus far.
Thus far that are promoting it in terms of the system here in the U.S. But I think in Finland they have
in Finland they got
they have multiple instructors over there. Again, I think at one point in time you said, so the system it's in infancy. Well, it really depends on what you meant by that a while back, because I think it's just the knowledge that it's around and available. for people to learn it. Again, when you mention it to me, the first term that comes out is like Barao Sugbo. It's not as common, but the name itself is unique already. So it's not a common name that you start looking for.
Definitely caught my eye. I mean, just on that. I mean, it's I heard about it, but with everything going on, sometimes I'm not able to investigate or get a better lens on something. But what I found, I love anybody or anything that does 2-on-1. I just, to me, after being in the trenches, I just don't know how you stop somebody if you're not doing 2-on-1. I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, I've tried everything else, and and that. But so when I saw they were doing that, I was a fan already.
Right.
He seems like a great guy too.
There might be a slight language barrier, but I think it's also the context of the communication styles. But GM Sinisa is such a humble man. I'm blessed to be one of his students and instructors, because the guy is just so very, very humble. So it was just a right fit for me. And when I go back there to the Philippines and train with him, he might be a humble man, but he'll deliver it. He will deliver it to you. Yeah. So it's just unique. When you talk to him, it's great. Then we start training. That humbleness is still there, but he'll deliver it to you.
So any plans on bringing him out?
Absolutely. So at least in my perspective, I'm trying to gain some funding. So if he does come here, and hoping to support his tourist visa, try to bring him to the different cities where Barao Sugbo is basically have been introduced. And that's a big endeavor, not only to the people who I'm going to partner with, but also to me. And the context also as a tourist, in my mindset is that I don't want people to. I can't rely on like bringing him to a location and there's no show, right? So I'm doing the pre-work and trying to promote the system. So if he does go to a workshop, at least people have already started the idea on what it is all about, and seeing the founder and Grandmaster Sinisa is just icing in the cake. And if they progress on the system itself, and the ideas maybe allow GM Sinisa to see where they're at in the level, and hoping maybe test them if they're ready for that material. So that's kind of the groundwork. Timing, as I mentioned before, maybe a year or two from now. The COVID definitely brought the system down, but the approach for that. But again, I think within a year or two, my plan is to bring him here in the United States, and whoever would love to assist in that, that'd be great. And to promote the system.
I mean, something I would definitely. I'm a fan of just any of that. Like again, the 2-on-1. It's doable. Like for instance, we brought out Brandon just last summer, and we all kind of kicked in and all that. If you can work with a few others, I know you mentioned there's 3 others besides yourself, but you guys can collectively work together and have a few spots. But it is an endeavor. Like I'm going to bring Brandon out in the spring. Yeah.
It's a big undertaking, right? It's like, and it's a gamble for both sides too. Yeah, and I think I have my approach is like, I'm hoping to, open up and allow to promote Barao, and at the same time, allow people to see what it's all about. So, Grandmaster Eduardo Sinisa had blessed me to provide the training materials online. So you could purchase the Barao Sugbo online material through my website, and in www.maktan.online, and the systems there. I'm actually getting assistance from Miss Kathy Zan to actually structure that. So she and I have been working out to ensure that people are available to get that online. So again, my approach is to allow people to see the system before I even get there. Because sometimes people would purchase the material and they will see it. Is it really like this? But they're missing the intent again. And I'm hoping that by the time that GM Sinisa comes here in the United States, the first contact's gone. It's more, hey, let's train hard. right? That's the idea. Or
Yeah.
the corrective matter comes into play. It's like, hey, you're doing this in a wrong angle or a wrong intent. So they will build on that. But the structure of the training materials is available. So
It's on there. Okay. Matter of fact, I
Yeah.
think we got another question in here. Let me just see. Oh my God, I scrolled down too far. Here we go. It's coming up. I believe it's from Julius. Okay. In FMA formal gatherings, I guess you would be wearing a tuxedo on a barong. Where are your go-to spots for that in Ohio?
You'd be
So
surprised,
that's really the question. You're sporting a
right?
tux. You got a barong hidden there somewhere. Where would you venture out into Ohio?
Man. So FMA gatherings here in Ohio is very, very selective. So it's a hit or miss, but there is a good Filipino community here. So they're very active. They have a lot of get-togethers and gatherings and formal events where you could wear tuxedos or barong. But at the same time, hit or miss, Julius. It's not as like West Coast or East Coast where it's always happening. So
Yeah.
it's an opportunity here in the Midwest. Let me put it this way: Filipino restaurants have a shelf life of less than 5 years.
Is that
So
right?
they would, yeah. So right now, I'll give props to the Filipino owners of the restaurant. But after the COVID, the
Oh,
one
they
that's
got
close to
wiped,
me, it's
huh?
gone. It's shut down. But
Yeah.
I'll tell you, the people that lived here in Cincinnati, Filipino restaurants are coming. They come and go. It's a tough business. So
That's too
if you're
bad.
talking about food and specialization in food, it's tough just to find those owners, the Filipino owners. So
So okay. All right. So you alluded to you started teaching around 2003. So I had the same question as Paul. How'd you come up with the name of your system?
So Maktan Filipino Martial Arts. So I utilize the derivative of Maktan Island, Cebu. So
Okay.
instead of spelled with a C, it's spelled with a K. A lot of Filipinos tend to utilize words and restructure it. And Maktan to me stood out. So
Okay.
Maktan Filipino Martial Arts is the primary. I guess at this point in time is the center of or mecca of Filipino martial arts, as described in terms of the history involved. You have Datu Lapu-Lapu that basically defeated Ferdinand Magellan
Who's that
in
guy?
that famous battle of Maktan, right? So and really bringing that into the tribal mentality and edge weapons to sticks and whatnot. So that's where I initiated Maktan Filipino martial arts. Again, and it allows people to actually ask that questions like, where'd you get Maktan Filipino martial arts
Right.
from?
It's conversation.
Check out the Philippines. It's a conversation piece, and now I can give you a little bit of history, and people delve into it, and they initiated, the history of Filipino martial arts, and Lapu-Lapu being the first known national hero in the Philippines, that fought formidable foreign warriors and all that stuff. So it kind of tied into that. So.
No, I like it. Okay, we got another question from Paul here. It kind of fits what we're talking about. Having branched out to other states, how do you manage handling all the leaders in your group? What makes your program stand out from the rest?
All right. So let's put it in the context. So there's always been history with my instructors. Give like, for example, Cincinnati. There's at least 3 instructors that I brought up through the Tabuada Balintawak system. So there's always been that history between us. So openness in terms of communication. They're my counsel. I'm their counsel. So every time we have a gathering, it's formally known that we're all in the same council or group when we are talking as from one instructor to another. I might be leading it, but at the same time, there's that mutual respect. For example, I have, Guro Paulo Santos. He's leading the Hamilton, Ohio group in Upalintuak and other systems. Guro Daniel, he's in Fairfield, Ohio, which is close by to where I live, but actually I teach in Blue Ash. So there's that partnership. Guro Kelly Miller, he used to be in Dayton, now he's in St. Louis. So, and the history that I have with all the instructors I brought up into the level is extensive of over 10 years.
Okay.
Right. Guru Rob Grossman in Chicago. He's leading the Chicago Palentowak over there. He started with me in 2003 or even sooner. But there's some history. There's always history. There's always that friendship and respect. And Guru Jesse, FMA, there's your FMA.
Okay. Yeah.
So he's also one of the leading, and he's leading the Maktan FMA Chicago over there in Chicago. So there's that partnership. Instructors in Louisville, Kentucky. Guru, Gannon and Jeff, and in PA, Miss Kathy, instructor Miss Kathy Zen, Colorado, of course, instructor Michael Lard. So kind of get you that perspective that at least the idea of teaching foundational martial arts, stemming from Tabuada Balintawak, then maybe to FCS, then to the Barao. How do I handle the structure? It's really just open communication, really. I think there's that trust factor that people have to address if you are trying to control, trying to navigate through all the systems. And I think you just have to have a good relationship with them, because again, if you're in contention, it's just hard to bring that agreement in terms of what are we teaching or what are you focusing on. And at that point in time, they're all instructors. They lead their own program. But one thing that correlates us from all the curriculum is either we're all practitioners of Tabuada Balintawak, we're all practitioners of FCS, or we're all practitioners of Barao. And some instructors have other systems that they carry, which is actually pretty good because meeting up with Guru Jesse Santiago, he's an instructor under Defensor Method. So there's that, that partnership. Oh yeah, so you're leading the Maktan FMA of Chicago, but at the same time, I could teach you some of the materials from the international curriculum, but you as an instructor of DM, you're teaching me too. So there's that, broad partnership in terms of learning from one another, which is good from, to learn from one instructor to another, because you're always learning. You're not stagnant. So that kind of brings you to a different approach in terms of how do you manage them. I really don't. We just kind of, have this mutual respect for one another based on their, expertise and specialization beyond the curriculum that we know. But there's that tie-in and the camaraderie. When I mentioned to you when the biggest camaraderie that draw me to stay in and train with Grandmaster George Benefiel was Balintawak. But beyond that, the group that was in that lineage, Guru Alicio Barha, he's now leading the South Florida Balintawak. He and I stem from Cincinnati. He used to live here in Cincinnati. So the friendship was always there. So there's always that tie-in, and we respect one another. It's like he might not be part of my system, but we are from the same lineage.
Right. Yeah, same
right.
lineage,
So,
right. Yeah.
Yep. So.
So with that being said, so as far as your students go, we touched upon this in the test run. I know you kind of give them foundational pieces in each, but at some point, do you blend them or do you keep them separate throughout their journey?
So give you a perspective. I will not teach Tabuada Balintawak with FCS Kali in parallel, meaning level one. Okay. So the structure is staggered. I would teach Tabuada Balintawak primary to get them an idea on what under position, actually for me also to review how well they can control themselves. I'll be honest with you, some practitioners just do not have the control, and the shelf life, that partnership without the control ends pretty good. So I love the structure of Tabuada Balintawak because it generates me that foundational learning as an instructor on the students themselves, whether they have control or not. Okay. Then that's staggered later on. It's like, I don't, it comes into play of the disruptive learning of parallel path. FCS is introduced later on in that one path. But ultimately, It can be flip flop too, but it cannot be in the same. It cannot be in that same level one, level one, level one. There's the stagger. Blending, I encourage people not to blend until they are really, really proficient on the system itself. Meaning, get to your C of A, get to your FQI level in Tabuadable and Tawak. Get and with that foundation, you start and progress onto a different system. Get to that instructor level. Then you'll find a commonality between the two, and that's for you to keep. And that's what keeps me in check too, because this gives me a perspective like, hey, this is my perspective on the training that works for me, and they will have a completely different mindset on how they see the two different systems. So again, we're back to that learning, right? But there's always that perspective that you have to learn for a foundation. It's the proficiency of it. One really good thing is that in the Tabuadable and Tuwak system, that your progression is threefolds, meaning you could be just a practitioner, or you could be a instructor, or you could be both. So you have to lead the system, and you're forced to become an instructor at the very, very early stage. So that formula right there, could be translated to other system too. Like you have to be, practitioner. You want to lead, and you can be both. So that kind of brings you to be a proficient practitioner in that discipline.
So far as FCS, I know they have levels. I don't recall, but I remember a couple of folks I interviewed on it. So do you also bring up folks throughout that, or do you present them to Tuan Ray? How does that work?
So I'm currently a Mano under the FCS level systems, so instructor level. So I'm able to level test practitioners in the FCS curriculum. But I've always wanted to host Tuhan Ray, and we do a level test in Cincinnati. And that's a check for me as an instructor. Am I doing it the way he intends it to be? Because that's his system. But at the same time, I level test other people without his presence. So that's the trust factor that I hope to bring to the table for FCS. That when I level test somebody, Tuhan Ray already knows that I've already tested that practitioner in that level when he was around or when he was visiting here. So there's already a pre-check for that. So that has been done in the last couple of years. So now it's basically availability in the practitioner to learn the FCS progression. So yes, I'm able to teach and level test people under FCS.
So then so they're under you, can they get, I guess, dually ranked? And what I mean by that is, can they get separate rank under your instructors, but as well as get rank under you? And what do most generally do, if that's even the option?
It is an option. So I put them in a context of if they are duly ranked for both FCS or Tabuadable and Tawak, and there's a potential for them to become an instructor under the Maktan FMA at a certain level, they start becoming an assistant instructor.
Okay.
I give them the blessing. It's like, I know you know the material. You could teach Balin Tawak. Start teaching, because guess what? You're gonna have to start teaching later on, and you have to start learning your own material if you become an FQI. Similar with FCS, you have to start developing your own skills. So at a certain level in Maktan Filipino martial arts, you will have an opportunity to lead us, to become an assistant instructor. When they reach that level, that's where I started, introducing the Maktan FMA training modules that they could progress onto. So it's not right off the bat. The Maktan FMA training modules, again, those are available online, www.maktan.online. What it is, it gives you a context of the disruptive learning. It gives you a context of beyond what I'm teaching or specializing in on those 3 international curriculum system. It allows practitioner to start searching and discover other arts that could potentially go bloom with what fits to them, whether it's double stick, whether it's stick grappling, whether it's mano mano. So that kind of where it becomes as a structure.
Okay. And somebody keeps, you got somebody, somebody's posting it for you. Okay, question came in. When are you having a Maktan gathering?
Oh boy, yeah, that's great. Wow, Maktan FMA gathering. So, kind of started off and on a while back. You know,
Kind of sama like, or
not really. I'll be honest with you. Like, I think the one of the first get-togethers that we have was I was introduced. I was hosted by Guru Adam Greenspan in Navarre, Florida, and he's I assisted with his full qualified instructorship under the Waterville Walk. He invited me down there, and I brought some guys in there, and we just had a workshop. We did some sparring. It was a good quote unquote gathering. It was not a formalized gathering, and that already has transpired here and there. Just recently, I was in Chicago last weekend, hosted by FQI or Guru Robert Grossman and Guru Jesse Santiago. We did a level test for Tabuada Balintawak, brought the community. It was an epic event, and at the same time, I was blessed to share Barao Sugbo with their under the dojo where they were training at. So there's kind of not a formalized gathering, but per se, but we have been doing it from time to time. For example, the Maktan FMA Louisville group in Kentucky, they'll invite me down there. Small group, garage training, specifically drilling Barao. And these guys are hardcore Barao practitioners. And man, when I'm done with those guys, my forearms like, I don't want to train with you guys for a couple of weeks. Yeah. So it has started, but not a formal per se. Hey, we're gonna have a gathering, and at least in my vision, if you're saying a formalized Maktan FMA gathering, it's like, hey, let's go to the Philippine Islands. Let's stay in one island. Hopefully to invite GMs to stop by the island. We'll train with that GM, and as many GMs as we can on the allotted time that we have. That would be my the vision, to have some kind of gathering, more of a formalized. I think that would be a fun event. At the same time, it's a learning event, and the camaraderie would definitely be an awesome one too. So
yeah, you pick an island over there, kind of like what the Russian house does there, whatever.
Yeah, well, yeah. The mentality for the Russian house, fantastic with Guru Alexander. I think I think for me, it's more of the gathering of having GMs come in and allow them to share their craft as one GM, not multiple GMs, because it allows them to share their stuff as individually. So
yeah. Like I look at the Russian house list, that'd be just too much for me. Like it just would be, and I'm not saying that's bad. I'm just saying, me personally, it just would be too much for me. It'd be information.
I'll give practitioners attending multiple systems in one event. I'll be honest, I've been to a couple of those.
I actually don't like it. Like, give me 2, 3. Perfect. Over that, though, to me, it's just information overload.
Oh, and to me, it's like, I'll be lucky to pick 1 or 2 materials per GM by the end of the event. I'll be blessed to get those. Okay, let me train more. But that's definitely a different structure. And I'll give people props from being able to train multiple GMs in one go. So
sounds like it's possible. It's something you should probably look into. You could make it happen.
You're right.
Yeah.
So, but, and then for announcement's sake, it's like Tuhon Ray has done that with the Boracay, his camp there in the Philippines, which is great. The structure is specifically FCS with all the international practitioner. So it's just a different take. How what gathering means to you. So
I just remember. So Alan, you must know Alan Chambers. He's one of my Piper students. He's in FCS, right?
I believe so.
Pennsylvania. Yeah, I think.
Yeah. Yes. He's an FCS practitioner in PA. That is correct. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Yep. He's good.
Yes. Under 200, and I think Guru Cody is one of his lead instructors.
Yeah. So good guy though. Do we get a part though with this interview? Julius. Julius asking.
Props for the PA group over there for FCS. There's a lot of people there that are training definitely FCS material. Miss Kathy Zen is actually there in Doylestown, PA. She's initiating the Tabuada, Balintawak, and hopefully FCS also. So there's, I mean, the network is there. Network is there.
Yeah, no, it
Just,
seems like
just
you
have
guys
to-
are, it's spreading. I mean, yeah, no, you guys are definitely do it. So would you have now, so I guess for your students, what's your ranking structure? Do you kind of go like beginner, intermediate, advanced, guru, or do you have a different?
For the Maktan Filipino martial arts ranking structure, you start up as an assistant instructor, where you already have at least attained a certain level in Balintawak, a certain level in FCS.
Okay.
Then you become an instructor level until you become a COA or FQY in Balintawak. That brings you to instructorship, and you get blessed as a guru at a later time. This is again simple structure. It's not fancy in terms of how you want to progress, but it's really the content of how you are as an instructor, where you could lead the multiple systems or the training modules, and whether your path could be different from one instructor to another. If they do decide just focus on Tabuada Balintawak, that's great.
Okay.
If they want to focus on FCS, fantastic. If they want to focus on both, also great. But there's also this context, like they have a choice, to what they want to focus on. I'm not giving that. I'm giving them the structure, but they have the selection on what they want to specialize on. And it's just a guidance for me. It's like, hey, what do you think about this? This is what I think. I think you'll be, you'll progress well to both, or maybe just to one, based on how well I know you. So
Okay, yeah. I mean, it's fair enough. So what? I'm going to show this video. This something I really enjoyed this. I'll tell you what really stood out to me. Hopefully, you'll be able to see it. All right, here we go, folks. God, FMA folks, man, they do such a good job.
Oh yeah, Guru Jesse
Hi, this is
Santiago.
Jesse Santiago, FMA Pulse. I'm here in Cincinnati, Ohio, with Guro Michael Malanyaon of Maktan Filipino Martial Arts. So, what is Dulo So Dulo, and what are you going to show us today?
So Dulo So Dulo is a supplement weapon systems that I've incorporated teaching my class. And what it is that it's a simple, like a pointed pen-like structure. And it could be a marker, it could be a pencil, but it's going to have to be a solid type of material. And what it is that it is incorporated in a self-defense structure where you could basically take this out and utilize it for your protection. So this could be a pen, it could be in your shirt, it could be in your pocket. And what it is that for potential self-defense, a person might attack you out of nowhere, and you parry that, right? Now, you find an opening. You might draw that pen right in your pocket or in your shirt, and now you can use that as a impact
Just stab him right in the kidney.
could be your advantage, right? Then you could destroy and defend yourself and escape from your opponent.
Get it at a different angle?
Yep, absolutely. I think the first one was off the other side.
Yeah, so usually people will be like, that's what we're what's up?
1, 2, open them up, turn them outside, draw your Dulo So Dulo, attack, violence, pressure points, whether in neck, armpit, or even submit in the process.
Cool. So technically, anyone can use that, like as a pen, screwdriver, any household
Marker, absolutely. And the idea is that just getting proficient on the draw and being aware of what's the weapon at hand. What do you have in your pockets that could help you defend yourself from potential attackers or potential emergencies.
Okay, great. So that was the latest technique video with future instructors from Guro Michael of Maktan Filipino Martial Arts. If you want to.
So what really stood out for me when I was watching that was not so much whether it's a tactical pen or palm stick or Phillips screwdriver or what have you, was your concept of opening them up. I found that really interesting. What say you on that?
So I'll be honest with you. The Dulo So Dulo material I got was a premise that Grandmaster George Penfield introduced to me, and I was hooked when he showed that to me. The center line, entry point, vital pressure point entry, targeting, simple, direct. And one thing that stood out that he incorporated and I actually built upon is that, besides this, I could use the same template from the basic foundational of Balintawak. The Grandmaster Bobby Tabuada's Balintawak fits in nicely with the dulo sa dulo, block, counter, and control. And that kind of that bridged me more of a training context or foundational structure, just in the simple context of just changing a weapon. And to me, it became more of a weapon management. You have to learn what's the weapon at hand, whether stick, knife, pen, or whatever what you could ever pull off into a material for a weapon to defend yourself. And that's what FMA is about, right? So that kind of brought me to that center line approach, direct, effective, and full self-defense. So
yeah, I thought it was I thought it was pretty neat, your concept there of opening them up, you know, besides just going in Hubit or something, clearing the line or like that. Like I enjoyed that. Got a question.
And Dean, I love that idea that you have though, like just instead of going to Hubud Lubud, I think everybody, so I love flow drills, right?
Yeah.
I love the flow drills because it allows me to open up my mindset in the peripheral drill and training. But in all reality, there's no flow drill in combative arts.
That's right.
You're in there, you're out there.
Yes,
you're in there, right? But the flow drill, I love doing that kind of stuff. It just part of my training. It opens up the peripheral, you know. And I heard multiple instructors, you know.
They definitely have their purpose, 100%.
Yep.
We've got a question from Alex. Can you please tell us about your online program?
Alex. Oh, all right. So online program. So so if you guys are interested, check out again www.maktan.online. So online program, this is where I have training modules that I present structured in such a way you could learn the doble baston level curricula, the garrote, or I call that garrote really translates to stick, but I focus more on the stick grappling on that. So there's different modules, the mano-mano, empty hand drills. Those are basic materials that are available, and I think is being posted right now in terms of the specific materials that's a lot you could access online. Aside from my own training modules, you have the FCS Kali online with 200 race gold tier, and this is another benchmark of if you can't get enough of 200 Ray on his seminars and workshop. There's online materials where you could see some of beyond the curriculum that 200 have shown. And this is where sometimes it gets really mind-boggling because as you have said before, FCS has a very diverse material. There's more diverse material on the modules that he has offered. And of course, the Barao Sugbo online. So this is basically what I what's available online training. And basically the online program just allows you to touch base on the different modules that is offered, allows you to get introduced to FMA, allows you to get foundational on the FMA. I would not, I would like to encourage and advocate people to train online, but you won't really feel that until you have a partner. That's I think the biggest challenge of FMA is that it's a paired art. You have to have a partner, really, to just to learn the material. Single training is great, but impact and combative training, you have to have a partner.
Yeah, no, definitely. Okay, I'm just backing up here to Julius's question. Besides sidearm, what are your other everyday carries, both an edged tool and impact tool?
Sidearm. So wow, Julius,
besides
sidearm. So there's a draw karambit that I typically carry. That's what I call my box cutter. So in my line of work, sometimes I have to open up packages, and that kind of draws out as my always carry material.
Okay.
There is a retractable asp that I usually have in my car that just helps me. If I have to get out of my car and break the window, I have that handy close by. And of course, the sidearm, it's just the reality of it that sometimes, like when I go camping, I carry that. It's just an extra protection just to make sure I have the needed leverage I need, especially if I'm with my family. This is the context where I'm out there in the wilderness, and at the same time, I don't know what's going to come up when we're hiking, and these are one of those things. So
Yeah.
aside, you never know, right? You never know. There's not only the nature out there, but also the people. So
Ohio.
You got it. You know what I'm talking about, right?
Go around that corner, man, and here come a couple methods. You just never know.
Yes, sir. Yes,
just
sir.
Saying,
Yeah. I think people understand if you're in that mentality, mindset that you have to. There's a leverage needed because there's always the what ifs, and people are sometimes, quote unquote, ignorance is bliss. But man, that's a dangerous mentality to have.
Especially today. I mean, people are just getting more and more brave and based on whatever, addiction or just their desperation, what have you. But it's just some of the stories I'm hearing. It's getting bad. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah. I mean, what was the latest one? Las Vegas. There's some stabbing in a gas station. Oh man. Crazy stuff going on there.
I know. It's just like people are unraveling. They really. It's And we got Sachi. Hey, there's my man from New Jersey. All right. Future goals for yourself and system.
Future goals, really. I think it's always been the same from the very beginning. Promoting the systems that I'm proficient in. Bringing them from foundational to ground up to the level where they could become an instructor. It's always been humbling to see students progress in the Tabuada Balintawak system from level 1 to FQI. I think to me that is a blessing to see students progress onto that, and it ties in similarly with FCS, right? I mean, you're level 1 up to the Manong level and Barao in the same structure. So the future goals is just, promoting art, promoting the systems, bringing them to that specialized mentality that, foundational is the key. It's good to explore and discover, but that becomes more of a personal preference. But at the same time, it's a growth. You just have to grow with the different systems out there. And I think everybody has a choice. Everybody has a choice. Yeah. So.
Is there any interest from your kids to learn FMA?
Yes. So actually, from time to time in my online classes, I would pull them off to be my partner, and it's hard. It's hard to explain that. Let me talk with Tabuada Balintawak. It's hard to explain online what the targeting system in Balintawak would be. It's like 1 to 12 targeting without a partner. You have to at least show that. Explaining is great, but at the same time, the visual contact of the camera sometimes might not be great depending on the angle. Same thing with with the FCS material. I pull my kids in to do the show and tell. My girls loves to do the doble baston. They just want to hit me. So so sometimes I will dabble into the grappling portion of it just for the fun of it because sometimes you quote unquote call it horsing around, but at the same time they don't know it. I'm grappling really, and they're getting some kind of training, and to them it's play, right?
Yeah. That's awesome. Let me get the kids involved. If you had the time and the desire, what other FMA system would you train in, or you would want to learn?
So actually, I've dabbed into that already and delved into some of that, initiating with the defensor method. Defensors one. You have the Heriosa coming into play at some point. Pambuan Arnis, I've started that a while back with Guro Rafi Pambuan. It's just the distance. It's availability and to do that. And it's funny when I'm in Florida, I think one point in time I was there for vacation. I have to request I can step out with the family and I want to train, and I'm a Guro Rafi Pambuan happy to be available, and we're like, okay, let's train. So yeah, it's really availability.
I keep hearing that name, and Yeah.
He fits with the instructor practitioner for personality. I think you know, he and I have chatted, and it's a good, it's a really good
No,
fit
no,
for
I've heard
me to be
nothing but
his student,
good
and I
things
give
about
him
him.
props.
Man.
Yeah, all the stuff that he has.
Yeah.
So
The fencer. I mean, I know I've been heard. I mean, so is that that's obviously a blended system, correct?
it is a blended system, and so defensor method. Just step back a history. Just bring you in history and why defensor method. So Grandmaster George Penfield, my instructor, and Guru Nate Defensor are old friends, and he's in the Chicago area. So this is the time where they were communicating in terms of training across board in the systems they have. And I think I remember Jim Penfield, we're talking about, oh yeah, we chatted via mainframes, the old way of communicating, no internet, just typing, and maybe a phone call here and there. So when I had a chance to actually, visit Chicago, I actually met Guru Nate, Guru Nate, and he showed me the material. I'm impressed. It's a blended system like FCS. Again, it's just a different take on the different blended FMA system.
Do you know what's in there? Do you know I'm sure Ansano. What else?
There is some blend of the Ansano system in there, but I think it's, again, I want to say, just for clarification, it's similar to an Inosanto blend system. So, but there's multiple systems within that, that method. So.
Yeah, I figure. I mean, I knew Ansano was one of them, and I'm sure, and of course, under Ansano, I mean, as anybody.
Because I believe the story as follows: that Guru Dan Inosanto and Guru Nate were actually at one point in time good friends. So they cross trained with one another. Yep. Yeah, so that's what I heard in the past. So I think there's the cross pollination of this of FMA blending of defensor method and Guru Dan Inosanto.
I heard everybody's saying I gotta get him on. Rafi, yeah, I don't know why that hasn't happened yet. Obviously, an oversight on my part. Villabril, that would make sense. Yeah, and there, Margamana probably. I wonder if it is Villabril pre-Lagusa or post. Huh, that'd be interesting.
Yeah.
But let me see here. They used to get it. Yeah, right. Okay. Yep, I remember hearing about that.
Okay, so there's actually
obviously a very well-known place there. Is Nate still around, or what's
Guru Nate unfortunately passed away a couple years back.
That's okay. I did hear it. Who's leading the front now?
I believe the main instructor right now is Guru Jason Brigham. He's leading the defensor method out of Chicago, and of course the second and of course another person leading is Guru Jesse Santiago. So he's also an instructor under the defensor. Yeah.
Okay. I've heard of Jason.
Yep.
All right. Well, this has been great, man. I appreciate you coming on.
Sir Dean, thank you for having me over your FMA discussion platform. Appreciate that. And if it's possible, can I promote a couple of events that are coming up?
Of course, please do. Yeah.
So for people online, please check out the upcoming event for Grandmaster Bobby Taboada. It's in Charlotte, North Carolina. He's having his World International Camp from November 4th through 6th. So that's coming up within a couple of weeks. If you guys are available to attend, it is a treat. I've known Jim Bobby for such a long time. There's always that power and speed, and he's just a well-rounded grandmaster in my point of view. I can't be wrong. I know Tuhan Ray is also having a Caribbean event that same weekend. Caribbean, so if you guys are, could visit over there, I think Puerto Rico, Lacan Guro Pico Lopez is probably leading that effort. And he's also a FQI under Grandmaster Bobby Taboada. So he's, he's been more of an FCS practitioner, but he is doing the event over there in the Caribbean with Tuhan Ray that same weekend, I believe. So those are a couple of the, promotion I would like to say. And of course, just a recap. If you guys are interested in checking out some of the Maktan FMA training modules, check out the website, www.maktan.online/classes. I offer online classes in terms of trying to get people to learn more of the training modules plus other systems out there. So that's the nutshell. That's some of the information I would like to promote. If you guys have any questions, feel free to reach out. Hopefully I could answer them to you, or if I can't, I'll try to direct you to other instructors that could answer it for you.
That's all.
So,
when in doubt, deflect.
sometimes you just cannot answer everything. People
That's
are
it.
really smart out there. People would ask you questions like, okay,
Right.
that's an interesting take. I think this other instructor would know it more than I can,
Yeah,
So-
right. But yeah, no, I appreciate it when I saw you on with the group there with the Finland guys and your instructor Sinisia. I figured, wow, we gotta get this guy on individually. So I'm glad it worked out.
Yeah, thank you very much, Sardine. Appreciate it. Really
Yeah,
appreciate it.
anytime. So hopefully our paths will cross. I did get the
Yeah.
invite to go down to. I'm just thinking there's a couple things going on that first weekend there in November. It's just gonna be tough, but
Right.
yeah.
And another thing, Dean, one of the things I've started through Maktan FMA online is we have a Kapatiran program. So Kapatiran is a mix of instructors that are promoting online classes. Now we're in our fall semester, and we have at least 5 or so instructors that are leading the Tabuada Balintawak, the FCS, the Defensor. So those are, and the Heriosa de Cuerda. So people are at least have a chance to dabble and kind of check it out until they delve and become specialized in those systems. Those are available for people to sign up on within the Maktan FMA Kapatiran platform. So
Speaking of which, too, those instructors who are watching this, we've created, and this can include you too if you have an interest. We've started kicking off folks that are getting together and doing online sessions. For instance, each person goes on for an hour. Like I did one with Jack Latour, I did one with Danny Terrell, Brandon Ricketts, Tim Hartman, just to kind of kick it off. I'm really hoping people will take it forward.
right.
And all that. And it's starting to happen. Like, for instance, Guru, Brandon Ricketts and Jack are getting together. I think Ty Botton's getting together with Danny Terrell. So folks, whoever's watching this, if you have an interest in that, let me know. I'll add you to the group. And everybody's really friendly there. You just, if somebody resonates with you or style you like to kind of do it with. We got a little of everybody in there. So just something to consider if you think if that's of interest. Let me know. You can just private message me and I'll add you to the group. So
Awesome. Yeah, thank you, Dina. I really appreciate that. Again, we're back to that context of like nowadays the technology is here. You now have an opportunity to.
It's not going away. Zoom's not going away.
You're meeting all these instructors. Maybe it's get that good fit. Not only as an instructor but also as a practitioner.
Yeah.
So
I think so. It's a good, you know what it does? It brings the community together. And you know what? If you can't get access to somebody, it beats sitting on the couch. You know what I mean? You get to do something that maybe perhaps you couldn't do, whatever,
Right. And those are really one of those things that, that was an eye opener. There's some people out there that do not have access to FMA.
That's what I mean.
Online.
So they shouldn't jump online.
Yeah, it's just a unique opportunity,
Yeah.
So, and you might find a great instructor that fits your partnership. And that's one of the things, so.
I agree. I just think who the hell are we to say like they shouldn't be doing that? Well, maybe they don't have any other option.
Exactly. Right. Yeah. And platforms that you have described, the platforms that I have described, those are like, it's an evolution. It's a way to get people to know the instructor themselves and even to know the disciplines, and it's international, right? It's just a perfect fit for people that cannot access FMA. So
yeah, absolutely. It's not going away. Sorry. It's not. So, but hey, you take care of yourself. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you, Sir Dean. Appreciate it, and everybody that attended online to check out the interview.
Yeah,
I really appreciate you guys joining in.
They
Yeah,
came
see a
out
couple of
tonight.
props. Yeah, see a couple of props to all the GMs that attended. Check
Yeah.
out. Thank you everybody for attending this session. Very blessed and humbled seeing you guys here online. Thank you, Sir Dean, for the FMA discussion platform.
Absolutely. You take care.
Yep. Thank you, sir.
Bye.
Bye.
All right, it wraps up 334. Who is next? Who is next? Well, I can tell you who's coming. Mark Stewart. He should be coming on soon. Eugene Samuel. I'm hoping Vincent Caballas, Robert Small, Chris Nolly, if not in October, early November. And maybe Paulo Rubio. Who knows? I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. We'll see. We'll see. But again, folks, if any of your instructors are interested in that joint online seminar, just PM me and I'll put you on the list. All right. Until next time.